India today stands at a remarkable intersection between a storied past and an aspirational future. It is no longer a country merely defined by its colonial scars or developing nation label. It is now one of the world's fastest-growing economies, ascending not only in GDP charts but also in global credibility, diplomatic maturity, and strategic ambition. But behind this visible story of skyscrapers, satellites, and startups lies a quieter but equally profound evolution, one that isn't written in headlines but etched in vaults. This is the story of gold, not just as jewelry, dowry, or cultural symbol, but as a pillar of financial resilience, a tool of global strategy, and a silent assertion of sovereignty. In global narratives, India is often celebrated for its technological achievements, from IT giants to space missions. It is admired for its startup ecosystem, its demographic dividend, and its digital public infrastructure. But what rarely finds the spotlight is how India has been strategically reshaping its economic defenses, and gold is at the heart of this transformation. As per the most recent data from the World Gold Council, India now officially holds around 879 metric tons of gold in its reserves. At current valuations, this is worth over $35 billion and places India among the top 10 gold-reserving nations in the world. This puts India ahead of Japan, a technological and economic powerhouse, and far ahead of the United Kingdom, which holds a comparatively modest 310 metric tons. So the question arises, why is a developing country like India amassing such large gold reserves? To understand this, we must delve into the composition of India's foreign exchange reserves, and more importantly, the thinking that underpins their evolution. According to the Reserve Bank of India, RBI, gold currently makes up around 8.98% of India's total foreign exchange reserves. This may seem modest, but when compared to China, whose gold reserves comprise less than 4% of its forex portfolio, India's preference becomes clear. Unlike others who rely heavily on government securities, debt instruments, and foreign currencies, especially the US dollar, India appears to be moving toward a more diversified and shock-resistant reserve strategy. For much of the 2000s, India's gold reserves remained static at approximately 557 tons. There was no significant movement until a decisive shift post-2018, when the RBI began quietly but consistently increasing its gold holdings. By the end of 2024, India had added over 300 metric tons to its official reserves, a steep increase compared to earlier decades. This wasn't a random change. It was a carefully calibrated strategy born out of changing global power dynamics, the erosion of trust in dollar hegemony, and India's own experience of economic shocks, including the pandemic and war-related commodity disruptions. For decades, U.S. Treasury securities were considered the safest place to park foreign reserves. They were liquid, backed by the full faith of the U.S. government, and denominated in the global reserve currency. But the Ukraine-Russia conflict in 2022 marked a turning point. When the U.S. and its allies froze Russia's foreign reserves, nearly $300 billion worth, it sent a chilling message to the world. No reserve is truly safe if it's under someone else's control. In this context, gold offered a distinct advantage. It has no counterparty risk. It does not depend on central banks or interest rates. It cannot be sanctioned, frozen, or devalued. It is universally recognized, liquid across all markets, and immune to geopolitical whims. Gold, in essence, is sovereignty you can hold. India's gold strategy also aligns with the broader BRICS vision of financial multipolarity. The BRICS nations, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, have been discussing ways to reduce dependency on the dollar-led system. This includes cross-border settlements in local currencies, development of a BRICS reserve currency, and strategic diversification of central bank assets. By increasing its gold reserves, India signals its readiness to participate in a new financial architecture, one that is more balanced, multipolar, and less vulnerable to unilateral control. Unlike cryptocurrencies, which are volatile and speculative, gold is a time-tested bridge asset. It doesn't reject the old system, but it fortifies your position within it. As of mid-2024, India held over $265 billion worth of U.S. securities. That's over 42% of its total reserves. These assets are stable in normal times but vulnerable to interest rate cycles. When the U.S. Federal Reserve raises interest rates, the value of pre-existing bonds drops. India, like many nations, has experienced valuation losses without ever selling those bonds. This is where gold functions as a counterweight, a stabilizer in a volatile portfolio. From a risk-adjusted return perspective, gold has performed admirably. In the 1990s, it traded at around $300 per ounce. As of 2025, it approaches $3,000 per ounce. That's nearly a tenfold return over 30 years, a remarkable feat for an asset often labeled as non-yielding. India is not the only nation ramping up gold purchases. Central banks across the world are doing it. Russia, China, Turkey, Poland, Kazakhstan, and even countries in Africa and Latin America. In fact, central banks were net buyers of gold for 13 consecutive years, with record-breaking purchases in 2022 and 2023. This is not coincidence. It's a collective recalibration. According to the World Gold Council, central bank demand has become the largest single driver of global gold prices, surpassing even jewelry and investment demand. India, by moving early, has benefited not just from hedging but also from appreciation. But India's connection to gold is not just about geopolitics or returns. It is deeply cultural, generational, and emotional. Gold has been part of India's civilization for over 5,000 years. It has flowed through the Indus Valley, enriched kingdoms like the Cholas and Marathas, adorned temples and brides, and been passed down through generations not just as wealth, but as identity. Even during colonial rule, Indian households accumulated gold as a defensive asset. Post-independence, despite poverty and modernization, this cultural trust never faded. Today, Indian households are estimated to hold over 25,000 metric tons of gold, the largest private gold stock in the world. This is equivalent to nearly 10 times the official gold reserves of the United States. What makes this even more strategic is that in times of crisis, like the 1991 balance of payments crisis, India can draw upon this unofficial reserve to bolster its economic credibility. In fact, in 1991, India had to pledge 67 tons of gold to the Bank of England to secure emergency funding. That episode remains etched in policy memory. Recognizing gold's role in Indian society, successive governments have tried to bring household gold into the formal economy. The gold monetization scheme, sovereign gold bonds, and the establishment of India's gold exchanges are all part of a grand strategy to unlock the value of private gold. The idea is simple. Instead of letting 25,000 tons of gold sit idle in lockers, incentivize citizens to deposit it, earn interest, and use it as collateral for growth. Over time, this could significantly reduce India's gold import bill, which averages 800 to 900 tons per year, and improve the current account deficit. The RBI has also started storing part of its gold domestically, a move aimed at reducing risks associated with holding reserves in foreign vaults. This echoes a global trend where countries are repatriating their gold to ensure physical control and security. At its core, gold is simultaneously a store of value, a hedge against inflation, a currency of last resort, and a strategic asset. No other reserve asset ticks all these boxes. And for India, a country navigating complex geopolitics, energy dependence, technological ambitions, and border tensions, gold offers neutrality, flexibility, and dignity. It is the only asset that performs well during global crises, currency devaluations, or even war. While the world watches India for its digital innovation, defense modernization, and rising influence, it must also take note of India's financial armor, quietly fortified through gold. This isn't merely a hedge. It is a statement of independence, a future-proofing mechanism, and an acknowledgement of historical wisdom. Gold is not just a metal. In India, it is memory, security, diplomacy, and strategy melted into one. In an age where alliances shift, currencies fluctuate, and systems evolve, India's approach reminds us the strongest power doesn't always speak the loudest. It sometimes just waits, quietly, with gold in its vaults. If you found this insight valuable, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to stay updated with stories that reveal the deeper layers of India's rise. Hit the bell icon so you never miss a perspective that truly matters.